Femi Falana, senior advocate of Nigeria, top lawyer, and foremost human rights activist, has been a constant in the civil society movement in Nigeria for a very long time, relentlessly fighting to check the excesses of military dictatorships and their civilian counterparts alike. In the course of his activism, he has at various times paid the price with his freedom, spending lengthy periods behind bars as the system fought back. Critically, Falana SAN has also been on the ballot as a candidate of a political party called the National Conscience Party. That, however, the fact that he lost out was no deterrent, and with another round of elections in the horizon, he, in the company of like-minded stakeholders, are getting ready to go again, this time exploring the possibility of a progressive coalition on the platform of the People's Alternative Political Movement. He now joins us from here in Lagos to talk about this new movement, in addition to emerging issues from the ongoing battle over judicial autonomy in Nigeria. Good morning. Welcome to the program, Mr. Falana. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for this opportunity once again.
Thank you. Well, let me just put it like this. What is new? The People's Alternative Political Movement. How is it different from other groups that we have? Talking more or less about the same thing. The incompetence of the elite, the need to restructure Nigeria. What exactly is new, and who are involved?
Well, we're worried over the state of the nation, over the parlous state of the nation. We are worried over insecurity, worsening security in the country, and we are worried over the frustration and disenchantment of the youths that has recently led to separatist agenda or demand for the Balkanization or Pakistanization of the country. Hence, we met recently in Abuja, about 21 groups, political parties, labor organizations, human rights bodies, and other civil society organizations. And we reviewed the state of the nation for a couple of days. At the end of the review, we came to the irresistible conclusion that we can no longer stand by, or rather, stand on the sidelines while anti-democratic forces and political buccaneers continue to keep our country underdeveloped. And so we have decided to intervene decisively in the political arena. What we have done so far is not to behave like bourgeois politicians by announcing the birth of a political party. What we have done is to form a political movement called People's Alternative Political Movement, and we agreed that for 3 months we are going to embark on major consultation with other progressive forces in the country, genuine progressive forces in the country, with a view to forming a political party whose ideology, you must have a political party with an ideology, whose ideology will be for the total reconstruction of the state of Nigeria. And we are going to place emphasis on Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which guarantees the socio-economic crisis of the Nigerian people, because we believe that without economic empowerment, you cannot be talking of civil and political rights. So this is what we are going to do. We are bringing back the politics of ideology, the politics of programs and manifestos, and a commitment of the political party or political parties to address the problems confronting us as a people, so that this country, which is the largest concentration of black people on earth, can take its rightful place in the Committee of Nations. And this is the difference between us and those political parties that are vehicles, special vehicles for accessing power. Power without responsibility. That is going to end in our country.
Well, we certainly hope so, sir. Now, this intervention that you have described obviously will culminate in running for office in 2023, one imagines. But what do you say to the common criticism of the Nigerian followership? Because we all know the criticisms of the leadership, but it's posited quite regularly that the followership is also too easily seduced by quick wins, such as a bit of cash on election day, and don't actually hold out for the best for themselves. How do you plan to surmount that?
What has happened in our country is that the ruling class, a very reactionary, backward, short-sighted ruling class, has deliberately pauperized our people, has deliberately dehumanized our people in a way that people fall, people are banned, people are compelled to take 1,000 naira or even 500 naira, to sell their votes. But we are going to stop that in the sense that there are laws, by virtue of, the Electoral Act. We are going to stop that and ensure that we make the law to work. Anybody, any group of people that bribes voters, we are going to mobilize young people in the country to ensure that we stop that practice. And we're going to appeal to our people. If they bring the money, it is your money. Take it, but invest in the future of your children. And that is going to be the difference. We have had this problem before. I mean, after the Second Republic, I could recall when we were much younger, the campaign then was that take their money, it's your money, but vote for free education for your children, free medical services for your children, and other, benefits that you could derive from government. But when you collect 1,000 naira for the next 4 years, you are not going to see the politicians. So we are going to bring out the contradictions in the system to our people. And when you mobilize them, Nigerians are the easiest people to govern, to the best of my knowledge.
You think so? You think so?
Yes,
yes. You think so?
That.
And why do you know, sir, that Nigerians are the easiest people to govern?
Ruben, you saw last year. Now, yes, I know that. Even robbers, can come around and Nigerians will say, let's give them a chance. Criminals get to the state, let's give them a chance, until you now expose your, criminality. That is when it dawns on Nigerians, which sometimes may be too late, we're in trouble again. But the point I'm making is that we have Nigerians who reject oppression from time to time. Strikes, including paralytic strikes that paralyze the economy, are organized by Nigerians. And you saw what happened last year with young people all over the country deciding to take one item. We are going to end police brutality. And they had protests that surprised everybody around the world. So Nigerians could be organized. So we are drawing lessons from such recent experiences to decide for the future of Nigeria. I mean, currently, judicial workers are on strike to fight for judicial autonomy in the country. And it's total. It's all over the country. Lawyers are now compelled to join them to fight for judicial autonomy for our country. And if people can decide to take their political destiny in their hands, we are confident that Nigerians are prepared for a radical transformation of this country from a land of poverty to a land of prosperity.
Well, but Tundu raised a point about the monetization of the electoral process. And, I mean, you are talking about the integrity of the electoral process, empowering the people. But, when these voters, when they are given money, the people who give them money, the politicians, they monitor and make sure that they vote the way they want. So how do you deal with that? Because that's beyond the Electoral Act. It's just realpolitik. What happens on election day?
No. It's with profound respect. It cannot be beyond the Electoral Act. The Electoral Act provides that nobody shall be given money. Nobody shall be induced for election. And we're going to mobilize the INEC and the law enforcement agencies to do their work under the law. And once Nigerians know that they are likely to be dealt with. Nigerians are very interesting people. They will behave themselves. I take, for instance, when this Buhari regime came on board, many Nigerians have thought of the Buhari regime, Buhari regime of 1984. Quite a number of people ran out of the country. Some who could not explain their questionable wealth ran out of the country. Some left with their private jets. But as soon as they discovered that it was business as usual, everybody returned to the country. So the point I'm making, therefore, is that Nigerians are ready, Nigerians are determined, if mobilized, to do the right thing. This country, we had the queuing culture in our cities, particularly in Lagos. But when Nigerians discovered that nobody was going to enforce the law, or that people in government were jumping queues, everybody went back to criminality. So, and that is why it is said that the ideas of the ruling class, I think it was Karl Marx that made the point, that the ideas of the ruling class are the prevailing ideas in any historical epoch. If the leaders are disciplined, if the leaders are not corrupt, if the leaders demonstrate and show good example, the followership will, the followers will follow, and that is it. It's logic. I mean, it's logical. And that has been the experience of this country. Well, Nigerians embraced the Murtala Muhammad regime, for instance, of 4 military regimes in the country. For 6 months, Nigerians identify with that regime. But since then, or take, for instance, in Burkina Faso, of all the military dictators in Africa, Thomas Sankara stood out. A young man who said, even though this is one of the poorest countries in the world, we are not going to take a loan. France came, the West came, IMF and World Bank. No, we don't need your loan. We are going to mobilize our people to develop this country. And that was what happened for 4 years. Those who killed him are now on trial. So the point I'm making, therefore, is that Africans can be mobilized. Africans are determined and they are yearning for good governments all over the continent. And wherever they have seen good governments, led by Nkrumah, Nyerere, Mandela, and the rest of them, Africans have always identified with them. And Nigerians are no exception. So please don't let's get, rather despondent and frustrated to accept, impunity as the order of the day.
Well, I mean, all of this is very well articulated, but the concern is, well, can 21 organizations in civil society, do they have the capacity to come up with this radical intervention? What is the strategy of mobilizing Nigerians that are as divided as ever at the moment?
Well, at the moment, Nigerians are divided because of the policies of the government. I mean, let me just tell you, one we have just taken up, from our movement. A body has just, the president signed nominees for the membership or the governing council of the National Human Rights Commission. Our movement studied this and discovered that it was full of lopsidedness. Whereas in one region of 7 states, out of 4 people nominated in that region, 3 came from one state.
Heavy.
Of the 6 geopolitical zone, nobody was nominated from the northeast zone, which records the highest number of human rights violations because of the counter-insurgency operation going on there. So I was asked to do a petition, write a petition to the Senate. And when the Senate members got and debated the petition, it was referred to a committee because of the seriousness of the allegations. Now, if we just simply throw up our hands in helplessness, and you allow lopsided appointments to go on and be used to divide our people. We have a duty now to arrest such ugly development. And that is part of what our movement is doing. Once confidence is built, I can tell you this. We have also identified human rights lawyers in the 36 states of the Federation and Abuja, so that when our people's rights, the rights of Nigerians, the human rights of Nigerians are violated, trampled upon, we simply ask our lawyers to go and intervene. So, by and by, our people will begin to have confidence in what we are doing, that this is different from those who are colluding with the neo-colonial state to oppress them. So that is the difference. And we are mobilizing based on the problems confronting our people. We are taking the electricity problem, for instance. We are taking security, for instance. We are challenging, those who are going around with AK-47 to attack our people, and all over the country. So we are addressing this. Those who are committing ritual murder, those who engage in armed robbery, and police parade them all the time. Our movement has decided to ask the police, where are these guys that you parade being tried? Have they been wasted, or are they on trial? So we're taking the problems confronting the country one by one, and we're talking of scientific solutions. Running a country is not rocket science. Taking security, for instance. An American was kidnapped, a 27-year-old American was kidnapped in Niger State. The American government simply deployed drones and they located where he was being detained. Troops were sent from America. And to the embarrassment, colossal embarrassment of our country, the troops descended on that state, freed, rescued the young man, killed 2 of the abductors, and took the man to America. It hasn't occurred to our government. It hasn't occurred to our government that that operation was anchored on the deployment of technology. So for us as a movement, we are looking at these areas of development and see how we can use technology to address the security of the country. That's it. You must have CCTV cameras installed in our cities. I recall that, and we are going to investigate this, $470 million. A contract of $470 million was awarded by the Jonathan administration to fix CCTV cameras in Abuja and Lagos to start with. The money disappeared. We can't find the CCTV cameras. So we are going to ensure that we acquire CCTV cameras. You were just talking about pension now. There is a Pension Reforms Act of 2014. It's again a question of ensuring that the law is enforced to the letter. What happens in our country is not just about the question of corruption. It's the question of impunity. You have the Police Trust Fund Act that has now decreed that money will be deducted from the Federation account and from other sources, put in an account to take care of the training, acquisition of equipment for the police, building of their barracks. But nothing has changed since 2019. So these are the laws we are going to enforce. Anti-Torture Act. Any police officer, any law enforcement officer that tortures any Nigerian will be brought to trial under the Anti-Torture Act of 2017. The penalty is 25 years imprisonment. Now, how many people are aware? The government has not read out the Riot Act because the government does not believe in these laws. The government was compelled to enact these laws. But what our movement intends to do is to ensure that these laws are enforced so that the rights of our people can be respected wherever they are located. Once our people can see, even from what our movement is doing already, that these people are different from those who go to rallies to dance. No, these guys are talking about addressing the problems of the country. So this is how we are mobilizing people for now.
Okay, sir. I'd like to add or point out that Nigeria was in fact praised and thanked for our role in the rescue of Philip Walton. Nigerian intelligence played a part, so did that of Niger Republic, to help the American commandos swoop in and get their man. But I wanted to now ask you, what is the practical impact of the Drusen strike on your practice and the general legal practice? Because we've all watched as Nigerians, just appalled, since April 6th, the downing of tools by our judicial workers. And what are your thoughts on the sort of merits of their points? Because what is most striking to me is that every military dictatorship starts with a suspension of the Constitution. So it's amazing to me that our governors don't understand what an affront it is to treat the Consolidated Revenue Fund like it's theirs to dispense as they please.
Well, our dilemma currently, our dilemma is that we have people who are running a democratic government who do not believe in democracy. And that is the bottom line. I mean, whereas Sections 81 and 123 of the Constitution provide that money belonging to the judiciary shall be deducted from the Consolidated Revenue Fund, either of the federal government or that of the state, and remitted to the judiciary. We've been fighting this battle since 1999. There are two court judgments, one by Jusun, one by Dr. Olisa Agbakoba SAN. Both judgments have been ignored. The president was compelled to enact Executive Order 10, of 2019. Again, this was challenged. Now, where are we now? Again, if you follow the law, the Constitution this time around, the strike will have been unnecessary. And that is why lawyers are joining and supporting the strike so that we can have the money appropriated for the judiciary released to our judges in a way that you do not have governors presenting gifts of cars and houses to judges. In fact, went to the ridiculous extent of a chief judge thanking a governor recently after collecting cars on behalf of his colleagues. And he did say that, Mr. Governor, you have wiped the tears from our eyes. Now, what do you expect of such a judge if you have a case against the state government? So this is what this struggle is about. How can we get our judges to operate in an atmosphere of impartiality and independence in the interest of all of us? Again, you have just had the case of George Floyd in America, decided in less than a month by the jury. So many lawyers are asking, how can we ensure that we also have a system to fast-track the justice, trial of cases, prosecution of offenders? And I have reminded them, this country used to have the jury system. The ruling class abolished the jury system in 1975. We had the assizes, whereby during vacation, judges would go around to address and attend to criminal cases. But today, it's only the poor that are tried in the magistrate courts and the area courts, whose cases are determined, expeditiously. The ruling class, the elite, that patronize the high courts are comfortable with inordinate delay so that those who have looted the treasury, those who have committed the heinous offenses will not be tried. So our movement is looking at this. And our movement is going to stop this inordinate delay in our cause. For instance, we are questioning the discriminatory practice whereby cases, political cases, involving politicians are determined within 6 months, as prescribed by the Constitution. Appeals arising therefrom are determined within 60 days. We are now saying, why should this policy not be applicable to other cases So that is the position of our movement. So we are going to let Nigerians know that there is that a new Nigeria is possible. Another Nigeria is possible. And this is our ideology.
I mean, very impressive statements you've made today. But real quickly, I'm a firm believer in the social contract with the people. I think it was Jean-Jacques Rousseau that talked a lot about the social contract. Are you ready? Is your movement ready to stand up like a social contract with Nigerians that if we renege, this is what you should do to us? Because if I'm to play this same tape you're playing now, in 2014, 2015, I'm sure the APC even spoke better rhetoric than this. But many years down the line, a lot of Nigerians are complaining about their government now. And I see the missing link. And if you even dial back, I'm sure other leaders that are vying for position had this same narrative. You know, we're going to fix everything. But the question is, there's no social contract that compels whoever comes to talk to the people and say, we'll do this for you, to the people that when they renege, this is what we should do. In fact, we start to hear the narrative of, if a child fails a class, you tell them to repeat. And that has become the norm in Nigeria. And that's a justification for another term, of office. You know, I've heard politicians say that if a child fails a class, if you not say we fail, then you tell us to repeat the class so we can do well. So that has become the narrative. Are you going to have a social contract with the people? And I'd like to hear what you want to do on power, because that really tickled me a little bit when you said it. Are you going to support cost-reflective tariff? What would you do to just push and turn things around in the power sector?
I'm going to appeal to you not to insult some of us by comparing our movement with the APC. I mean, I'm collaborating with those who have risked their lives, those who have endangered their liberty in fighting for this country, those who withstood and those who fought against military dictators, those of us who are alive. Many of our colleagues got killed in the process of fighting for this country. So that is the difference. We have been tried and tested in the struggle for the liberation of our country. That is the difference between us and those agents of power for the sake of power. Now, we really do not need to sign a document. Our work, our pedigree, will convince our people that these guys are different. Because, and for us, a political party does not exist to acquire power. It's not a 2023 agenda. It's a daily agenda. After this program, I am going to attend to people whose cases have either been frustrated. I mean, currently there is a move to use the Jusun branch of Lagos State, right, to sabotage the national strike. On behalf of the movement, I had called the chairman of Jusun this morning, and I've been told that this is being taken care of. I have called the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Olu Akpata. What is the bar doing to ensure that this strike does not collapse? So for us, it's a daily affair. And I'm not talking of myself alone. My colleagues are also involved in this, what I will call genuine links, organic links with our people. We are sharing in their problems. We are participating in getting solutions to the problems confronting our people. So, and it's not limited to Lagos, it's all over the country. So, for us, that is the social contract. But to be very serious with you, no political party in Nigeria today is talking of an ideology. We are going to embark on the enforcement of Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which the ruling class inserted. There is a clause inserted in the Constitution that Chapter 2 shall not be justiciable. We are going to ensure that it's made justiciable. On security, on electricity, where we know the problems. We know the problems. This regime threatened, President Buhari threatened during the campaign that he was going to probe the $16 billion allegedly wasted on power. $16 billion to generate darkness. For us, we are going to examine every contract to ensure that those who had made away with the money to feed the electricity sector are brought back to perform their duty. Alternatively, they will go to jail, will recover the money and fix electricity. But beyond this business of national grid, we are going to empower every state government. That chapter, that area of the Constitution, the exclusive legislative list that talks about national grid. No, there will be no national grid. Every state, every local government, every estate will be allowed, as it is done in other parts of the world, to generate electricity. Right now, what we are wasting on generators, emitting, a lot of pollution everywhere in the country, is enough to fix the electricity sector. And Nigerians will pay if you are able to deliver. But we can't go on like this, increasing tariff without any responsibility. Let me remind you, and you can go and confirm this, before the privatization of the electricity sector, NEPA had become self-sufficient. NEPA was no longer getting allocation from the federal government. The workers warned Nigerians that privatization was going to worsen the situation. Again, we are going to look at that. But apart from talking about national grid and the rest of them, right now, state governments are empowered by the Constitution to extend and fix electricity, provide electricity in all the rural areas in the country. That gives state governments a lot of room to intervene in that sector. But for us as a movement, we have also decided to look at less expensive alternative energy areas like wind energy, solar energy, coal energy. So we're going to look at other areas so that every part of this country will have electricity, because without addressing the electricity crisis, you cannot develop, you cannot industrialize the country. Right now, we have looked at the problems of Ajaokuta. We know what it will cost to put Ajaokuta, in business. The same thing with Ascon, abandoned in Akwa Ibom State, Alaja Industry, and the rest of them. For us, this is a wonderful country.
Mr. Falana,
in terms of human and natural resources. We are going to expand these resources.
Mr. Falana,
for this country.
Sorry to interrupt you. We have just about 2 minutes to go, but there's something I want you to clarify for us.
Yep.
The statement you issued on the strike by the Judicial Staff Union of Nigeria, yes, you commended Juson, but after stating the rule with regard to credit standing to the judiciary going directly to the heads of courts, you then talked about judges being insulated. Is it that you do not trust the judges? You talked about a transparency mechanism to be put in place. What is that transparency mechanism?
The transparency mechanism that will be put in place will insulate our judges from the day-to-day management of funds, award of contracts, purchase of cars, contract to build houses and the rest of them, so that they can concentrate fully on the judicial function of discharging their responsibility of hearing and determining cases. Judges should not get involved in the management of funds. And so we must put in place, like they do in other countries, a system, totally, not under the control of the judges. The judges will simply submit their requests to that agency in the judiciary, that will be independent, whose members will be appointed transparently, so that you don't have a situation where House of Assembly members performing oversight functions will be harassing the chief judge of a state. That would not be okay. Or the EFCC, inviting the chief judge of a state to answer questions about mismanagement of funds. So this is why our organization believes that while we support financial autonomy for the judiciary, we must insulate our judges from the management of funds.
Thank you very much, Mr. Falana, SAN. That's all we'll be able to take. Thank you for your insights. And all the best with the movement.